So if I had listened to this one, like en passant, in passing comment from this person, and I had taken it to heart, I mean, they don't care. They probably don't even remember what they said. They have probably have no idea. If I had listened to that, I would never be where I am today.
Well, hi, everybody. This is Diane Gilman, and we're talking about my podcast, Too Young to Be Old, and a perfect title for a perfect guest. William Rossy, who does a podcast called Seeds of Success at Sprouts. And his fascination, and he is 25, is with older citizens. So whether you are 55, 65, 75, 85, up to 105, this is a guy who has a natural and truly authentic interest in what makes a long and happy life. And we are here to discuss that. You're going to find this absolutely riveting. He is an incredible public speaker. So join us, please. I think you're going to love it. Well, hi, everybody. This is Diane Gilman, formerly known as the Queen of Jeans, but now the proud host of my podcast, titled after my second book, Too Young to Be Old. And what a perfect title for our guest, William Rossy, who shares words of wisdom from elders with his podcast, Seeds of Success at Sprout. Well, I have to say that William interviewed me, and I felt it was one of the best interviews I ever had. You really got at the essence of what aging is about, at least individually for me. So I'm going to ask you a big question. Where did your fascination for older people come from? I mean, it's so unusual for a 25-year-old. Give me a glimpse into how that mechanism inside you works.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Diane. I'm very happy to be here, and I really enjoyed our interview, so I'm happy to flip it with you. Yeah, so I guess to get a little deep, a little quick, I
Why
guess I'm
not?
used to this. Um, I mean, when I grew up, I had a lot of, not personally, but like in my family, health scares, deaths within the family. It made me, I think, grow up a lot faster than most people. I think you'll hear that too when you meet people who've gone through death at an early age or have experienced that. They tend to age a little faster. Life gets a little bit more serious for them. And for me, I had the passing of my grandfather. My father almost passed away a few times, and my grandmother had a sickness that she ended up passing away from. All of this kind of happened within, I mean, just growing up as a young kid, but also in my teens. It made me realize a lot about life, and it's very fragile, and there are experiences that you can have one day that you'll never have again. And it didn't really make me fascinated with aging, though. Just made life feel very real to me. And I'd say that that probably kickstarted this desire, this quench for understanding what makes a great life, and also why are so many people wasting their life. I mean, it's one you have one life, and I mean, as far as I know, you have one life, and a lot of people seem to just let it go by, and that was my big fascination. I think that came from all these experiences.
So I felt that William and I had a lot in common. We both come from immigrant parents. And immigrant parents, I think, also have a much higher standard for what they want you to achieve. I think there's an insecurity to immigrant parents. And so my bar was really high. And my parents did not at all accept the fact that the university was not important to me. Getting into the fashion scene was. That seemed like a very insecure life to them. That seemed like the wrong decision. And they actually never forgave me for it and never acknowledged my success. But for you, you went through schooling, then you got a really socially acceptable job in the financial community. What was the reaction like when you went to your parents and said, I'm just going to walk away from all this security and do something that's sort of I don't know, maybe it's going to work, maybe it isn't. How did that come off for you?
At first, the initial feeling from them was like, why don't you get a real job? Like, why don't you stick with your
Yeah.
job? You have you have everything. When I thought about it, and I made my parents realize this too, or it was kind of like a counter argument that they had both avoided security as well when they were my age, and uh, and for different reasons. My mom grew up in Lebanon, so both my parents are Lebanese, but my father is a third generation immigrant, and my mom is a first generation immigrant. So when my mom was young, she left Lebanon, left her whole family, moved to Canada, and started her own life. That's going against the grain in all aspects. And my dad, started businesses and did his own thing and traveled a lot. And he was very much going against the flow in his own right. So I just made them realize like this is something you both did in different ways too. And where do you think it's coming from? Like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Wow.
And when they realized, I think at first they were like, we'll give you 3 months. You just graduated, you want to start this business, you quit your job, all these things just happen to you. Okay, we'll give you some time, figure your life out, make the videos. He's just a kid, whatever. And then after a few months, they realized he's very into this, he's very passionate. And they trusted that. I have a very good relationship with my parents and they trust me a lot. So when they saw I was passionate about it, they were like, okay, let's see what happens. And now they get bombarded by their friends who are like, I watch your son's videos all the time. I love them. I tell everyone to subscribe. So
Wow.
I think it was a good decision for them.
Yeah, no kidding. When my fascination with aging came because I was so different from other kids. In 1945, my mother was 45 when she had me. That was unheard of. When I was in high school, my best friend got pregnant at 15. And when did her mother have her? At 15. So it was in the 50s into the early 60s, very common to have your first kid, marry your high school sweetheart, have your first kid while you were still a teenager. So you were in a house and getting raised by somebody who was really young themselves. I was with two people who had a totally different point of view of life. Everything modern scared them. And you made a remark earlier about, why don't you live out your full life? And they were not that way at all. They wanted to cut coupons out and buy a 12 pack of Coca-Cola with a $1 discount. That was what you did on a weekend. That was pretty exciting. And they also represented their lives through material things. So, how old were you when you had your first interview set up where you were interviewing somebody older? And how did you come to the format you have for your podcast? I have to tell you, you've got 500,000 followers, and on YouTube, you've got 3 million followers. There can't be anybody who isn't saying to themselves, what does this guy have that I don't have? How did you put it together? And did you script yourself? And how do you choose who you interview?
I mean, I spoke at a school at my old university 2 years ago, and someone said, "How did you get to the point that you were at?" And expecting like a secret three step strategy, 5 step whatever. And I was like, look, this is probably not the answer you're looking for, but it really is the only answer. And I believed in myself the whole time. There was never like everyone has moments where they want to quit. I'm sure Diane, you went through that a zillion times,
A
but
zillion times.
yeah, a zillion times. So everyone has moments where they want to quit, but the ones who don't are the ones who end up figuring it out. And when everybody didn't believe in me, I was the only person who did. That's how it started at the beginning. That's how it's always felt. Well, it feels a little bit less now when you're successful, but
Yeah.
and you have the metrics and all that. But yeah, just before I answer that question, just to go back and just like think about this, my parents always told me that I was capable of doing anything I wanted. They always instilled that positivity in me, and my parents always stressed the idea of doing what you loved. from when I was young. Like, don't worry about this, don't worry about that, just be happy, just be happy, just be happy.
Wow.
So when you think about it, well, when I think about it now, all that reinforcement, that's positive reinforcement to do what I wanted to do and to believe in myself and to believe that I could do things that a lot of people don't get. And when I think about how do you put that out on social media, like if you didn't receive that, or if you're feeling alone, you feel like the problems you're going through, no one else is going through, how do we create something online where people can resonate? And that's a lot of the comments that we get, right? I really resonate with what this person said. I really resonate with how they felt. I'm going through this. Now I don't feel like I'm alone. And so people are going to be on social media. Everybody's on it. Let's create a space where it helps people shift their perspective and their mindset. And to go back to your original question here of the interviews, I did my first interview 2 years and less than 2.5 years ago. So I've been making videos for 5 years. I only started doing interviews 2.5 years ago. My biggest fear growing up was speaking to strangers. By far my biggest fear, like super introverted kid growing up. Never, I always think of the example of the cute girl that I would never go up to. I would never approach her. Just too shy and too nervous and too worried about, what if she says no and all that. And over the years of making videos, I slowly started interacting with other people more and more, all these different strangers. And I became more comfortable, not as comfortable as I am now, but a big difference from how I grew up. And I burnt out after 3 years, almost 3 years of making videos that nobody ever watched, really. Like you're making videos for 3 years, not a single person's watching them, or like a
Yeah.
thousand people. Not enough for a business, not enough to sustain yourself. But I was doing it for 3 years. I finally burnt out. I sat down and I thought, okay, here's the message I want to put out into the world. I want people to have tools to live a more fulfilling life. How do I actually put that message out in a way that's simple? Because before I was showing, change your mindset by running a marathon with no training, by convincing your friends to do like a crazy fitness challenge, by traveling to a random place, by throwing an event with 30 people. I was like, man, that's a lot of work to do that every week. That's a lot of work to do that, and you're only getting 1,000 views, and you're spending like thousands of dollars on a video. So I was like, what's a very simple version of how I can answer this question? I met a friend, now a friend in New York, who was asking people questions, just saying, "What are you listening to?" Like they have like earphones in on the street in New York, and he'd just say, "What are you listening to?" And he'd get like millions and millions of views, and I was like, "Wow, so simple! Like it doesn't help the world, It's just entertainment, but he's doing so well, and it's so repeatable." For years, for 6 years, 7 years, and I was going through a hard time in my life, I always looked up on Reddit, 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 80-year-olds. What do you wish you knew when you were younger? What are your biggest regrets, your biggest mistakes? What do you wish you did more of? Did you travel enough? All that kind of stuff. I was like, what if I take what he did with the interviews and make it, in my opinion, more useful for the world? Use my subject matter, which is stuff I read about all the time, and I try it in real life. And the first time I ever did that, by the way, these are all street interviews. So we interview random people on the street. Like when I interviewed you, this is the last 9 months where we've started doing the one-on-one podcast. But for 2 years, we were doing street interviews, interviewing 1,000+ people in 35 countries. Totally random people that are just like in a park, walking on the street.
But
I don't know them.
older
Yeah.
people, or all kinds of different ages.
Well, because I'm young, they're all older than me, but all different ages, like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. I've seen 98-year-olds like in a park that we interview. Yeah, everybody is older than me, let's say, and then maybe 20 people who are younger than me. So not
And
that much.
everybody's younger than me. And the
No,
one
some
thing,
are older than you. A lot are older
hardly
than you.
any, but yeah, especially at the rate I'm aging. But one thing I do get all the time when I deal with the community I'm trying to build, which starts at 55, is especially for women, they feel invisible and not heard and pushed aside. And so I don't want to say it's a grievance community, but it definitely is a community that is very grateful and very happy to be able to have a respect level and an interest level that is afforded to them. Is that what you find as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in the age where, it is what it is. But what I've found with interviewing all these people who are older is they always say that the two questions I ask everybody at the beginning, how old are you and what does it feel like to be your age? Every time I ask what it feels like to be your age, n nobody says that they feel older mentally. They always say that they feel older physically. Like the body doesn't work or it feels different. But mentally, I still feel like I'm 25, 28, 30.
Hi, today we're talking about Particlar. This is a series of supplements, and let me tell you what, if you are aging with any sort of inflammation that becomes one of the biggest issues in your everyday life, and swelling and joint pain, oh, I'm on it 100%. I've begun a new vitamin regime from Particlar that has literally changed my life. And I feel so much better on a daily basis. Try it out with a discount using our code below. You are going to love it.
And these people are in their 50s plus, and it just blows my mind the thought that you could still feel the way I feel right now, but be older and society treats you differently, especially this society. Like I think when you go to third world countries, people value older people quite a bit. It's very different in that regard, but in these Western societies, it's kind of like out with the old, in with the new, and you forget that these are people who were your age at some point, and mentally speaking, they still feel like they're your age, and yet you treat them like they're old news. So that's very disappointing for me to see.
I think that's because in third world countries, living is multi-generational within one household. But in a rich country like North America, children move out. I mean, a sign of success is children move out. They've got their own lives. They don't necessarily stay near home. I know for me, even after watching my parents age, I felt like I would never do it that way. The one thing that never occurred to me, even though my mother had severe arthritis and my father had a lot of things wrong with him physically, I just thought I was going to age and get white hair. And if I didn't want to dye it anymore, it was going to be white, and that was going to be the only difference. And then it was like, why didn't anybody tell me about all this stuff? And living in a city for me, like New York, people say it's a great place to retire because you don't need a car and you can sort of walk everywhere. It's also a very harsh city and a city very focused on youth. And that is what I find, that you almost have to, as an older person, sort of plan everything out and make sure it's adaptable for you. When you were interviewing me, I thought, wow, this guy's really great at asking the right questions. How did you go from simple questions on the street, like a street reporter, and very spontaneous, to really adapting to the art of the interview, and especially the art of the interview of someone who's got a lot of decades behind them to look back at?
Yeah, well, I say the street interviews were very short, like they were 1 to 8 minutes, but they were very deep. And so I had to practice how do you get somebody to trust you enough to share something super deep about their life within 5 minutes, and then be on their way and feel like they enjoyed themselves and you enjoyed themselves and you got value. I think people underestimate that. A lot of people who have podcasts, I mean, they just have podcasts. Like they just start a podcast and then start talking to people. I just feel like I went through the trenches in the sense, of having to really, really analyze the average human being and understand like what makes them want to share more, what makes them tick, what makes them interested, what makes them happy. These are all things you learn really, really quickly as you're on the street. And I realized though the problem with the street interview is you can only speak for like 5 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes because people are in a rush and they have a life and they don't care, you know. That's not why they're outside and etc. So I started reaching out to people to speak to them for longer, like what we did together. I mean, genuine curiosity is really the number one thing. A lot of people are very transactional with their approaches. Like, hey,
Totally.
I got this guest on. How do I talk about myself? How do I make like my podcast look good? For me, I'm like, I'm interested. I have a question that I want to ask you. You have a story. I'm just going to keep following my gut with what feels good and what feels nice. Like, I've got a script with everybody. You know, I have themes and I have topics and I have questions, but I usually don't even look at it. First of all, I'm sort of memorized it, so I know what's going on. But and you have to memorize on the street as well. By the way, like when you're on the street, it's not like I can't pull out my phone and what question this, what question that. So I'm used to memorizing my questions. And when you're not, you don't have a script in front of you. Usually, it's just okay. We're in this. Let me listen to what he or she is saying. And what do I think that my audience and what do I think that I would want to hear next that would actually be valuable? And I just kind of go from there, which is genuine curiosity, but also following my themes at the same time.
And is it genuine curiosity about aging? And if that is your curiosity, what is the best advice you ever got from somebody you were interviewing, whether it was the short form on the street or the long form, like the video we made together?
It's genuine curiosity about what makes a great life. Aging is part of that, how you deal with age and how you evolve over time. That's part of it. But what makes a great life and why are there certain people who live a life that they're happy with and satisfied with and others who have same opportunities who don't? What makes that person different? And what does it take to go through the life lessons, life experiences in order to become maybe from where you are today to where you want to be? That's kind of what I focus on the most. The best advice that
Yeah.
I've received, best advice is tough, but the question I ask a lot, one of these questions, what is one thing that when you were older you put a lot of importance on, and as you've gone older you realized wasn't that important? So what is something that gets less important over time?
Oh,
I mean, you said this as well, but 85% of people that I've interviewed say that they wish they wouldn't have cared so much about what others thought of them. And for me, that's, you know, I heard that a lot. And over time, I'm like, yeah, I keep hearing the same answer. Like to the point where I'd look at Dennis, the guy filming the videos behind the camera, and we'd have like, we always have a look. If someone says, I wish I didn't care about what other people think, we'd be like, you know, another one, you know, another person.
yeah,
Because
no, we
we've heard
don't
it so
care.
many times. So like, oh my God. And the editors would be like, oh my God, again, like another person. But it's true. And I started asking, like, if you, let's say this person's 50, 60. So what if you're 25 and you could stop worrying about others' opinions at 25? How much more different do you think your life would be by the time you are, you know, however old you are now? And everyone's like, it'd be totally different. It'd be crazy. Like my life would have improved by so much as maybe things I would have done. There's things I would have avoided. So my biggest lesson there is like, who cares, right? And I made a video about this just for myself I posted on Instagram, and I made this in Japan. Um, this concept of like, why do we care so much about what others think of us? When I started my brand, everybody had an opinion of me. Every single person had an opinion, a negative opinion about what I was doing. Because when I started, everyone I knew was a banker, a consultant, an accountant, and I didn't know a single person who made YouTube videos. It's very, very frowned upon. It's kind of like, I mean, it's not like the world now, but 5, 6 years ago is very different with social media than it is today. When you grow up in that environment, people have a lot of negative things to say. But I thought about it, and everybody who had a negative comment said the negative comment, and then I never heard back from them for 3 years. They said their piece, and then they disappeared. So if I had listened to this one, like en passant, in passing comment from this person, and I had taken it to heart, I mean, they don't care. They probably don't even remember what they said. They have probably have no idea. If I had listened to that, I would never be where I am today. And a lot of people take those things that people just say in passing and they treat them as end all be all comments. You know, those people don't even remember what they said. I remember because I was hurt from it, but they don't remember. And so I think it's just really important. Like that's a big lesson I've learned. If we can stop caring about what others think or care a little less or a lot less, that would be amazing.
I think the other really interesting thing between you and I is you say you were very shy. I am so mortally shy. I can, if I have to meet people for dinner, I will deliberately be 15 minutes late so they're there already. I can't.
I've done
I
that
can't.
too.
But for you, I am thinking when you found a microphone and that became a thing between you and humanity. For me, I found my comfort level. As long as there is a camera in between me and a public, I'm totally relaxed. And I think that that is also a hallmark of people who genuinely like you are where you're supposed to be. It is your natural element, and in the most organic of ways, you discovered it. So, where do here's like the payoff question. Where do you think you are going with this? I sound like a parent, like a mother, like, where do you think you're going with this? This can't last forever. Okay, where do you think you're going with this?
I just want to touch up on what you said before because it makes so much sense. I for a shy kid who talking to strangers was his biggest fear growing up, I believe that I have the most viewed video on YouTube about talking to strangers.
Oh my God.
So it's a video I made 3 years ago that was basically like talk to strangers, it's gonna change your life. And one thing I realized, like a lot of comments are, oh, you have a camera, so it's easy. You have a camera, it's easy. And I was thinking, how do I make another video where I don't have the camera? But then I thought, that's actually the point. That might be the secret. It's the same thing as what you just said, Diane. I think everyone needs an in, an in, because people are very like their guards are strong, and the camera actually liberates you from that. It's oh, this person is just he has a camera, he's friendly, he just wants to talk. It makes it easier for you to have an in, which makes you more confident, and the cycle continues. So a lot of people just try to walk up to a random stranger, like weird body language is weird, they don't look super clean. So like honestly, I'd be creeped out too, because no matter how much I have faith in humanity, it's just weird. It's just weird, honestly. Like it's strange. So if you have something that's an icebreaker,
Yeah.
then it's much easier to
Or a
get an
purpose.
in.
Or a
Yeah,
purpose. And for
exactly.
me, it's like a filter. As long as that
Yeah.
camera is there, I have a purpose. I have a reason, a raison d'etre. I have a safety. And I'm so, so comfortable. When you take that away from me on a one-on-one level, I'm terrified. And, I do want to say that in conjunction again with what you said about people having negative commentary about you, every single step of the way for the 80 years I've been alive, every move was like, well, that's stupid. Why did you do that? I had to so learn as a completely insecure person to depend on my inner read of a situation. It either felt really right, like eating comfort food or something, or I couldn't get it to resonate at all. And then when I left fashion, at okay, at 78 years old, but still, I could have stayed there forever because I wanted to do something new. People were not supportive. They were like, "Are you out of your mind?" So I think that the one thing that is so valuable is you have to listen to your inner self, and you develop that skill really young. Do you
Mm.
see yourself, just as a final question, commercializing your talent for getting the best out of people, getting the best responses and learning experiences? Do you see yourself commercializing this, or do you think it's going to grow organically? Give me a 2 to 5 year future.
The big dream that we have, this has been my dream from the beginning. I believe people are wrongly educated. I don't have a problem with school. I think it teaches you a career. It teaches you a set of skills that apply to a career. But one thing that schools fail to address is who am I? what do I want? How do I get what I
Oh,
want?
yeah.
Schools don't teach you how to think for yourself, how to figure out what you want, and how to develop a system and confidence and discipline to actually make that happen. So the way I see it is I want to inject Sprout into the education system. Like right now we have our journals that I was showing
Oh,
you
I love
last
that
time.
journal. So beautiful.
Yeah, we have our journals that they explain those questions. Who am I? What do I want? How do I get what I want? They're guided journals. And my vision is how do I get these into every school? How do I get schools implementing the education that's in these so that one day kids will go through school and the education system, but they'll do it knowing who they are and they'll do it knowing what's right for them and what they want. And it will make them much more in line with their happiness, their fulfillment. And again, like you're not going to have people growing up going through 30 years of a career that they hated only to realize they should have done something else because you have these systems implemented. My big vision is the same way you would go to India, you'd go to a big retreat center, and you would go there to figure your life out and meditate, etc. It's you come to this Sprout campus. I don't know where it is yet. It'll be by the beach, somewhere warm, and you'll come and you'll have teachers and programs and you'll have journals and you'll have other people who are trying to figure their life out too. This is not like it's not woo woo because I'm not a woo woo person. I just want practical advice to be the best version of myself. So for those kinds of people, you come here, you figure your life out, you meet people, you learn that you can achieve your dreams, and then you go out and you do your thing. But that's not 2 to 5 years. That's at least 5 to 10 years down the line. So for now, it's how do I get more people to journal? And when it comes to interviewing, the interviews, it's kind of like a two-pronged strategy. The interviews, it changes your mindset. Your mindset, your perspective on life. If you want to do something about it, you grab a journal because this will actually help you take action. So if I get more people to watch my interviews, hopefully more people will start journaling. Hopefully the world gets a little bit better because of it. That's my 2 to 5 year strategy.
To me, living your life in a bubble of safety is not living your life. And that's basically what we're taught. That's a dangerous world, especially when it comes to employment, and especially with AI now. And you've got to choose something with a stability factor to it and that's safe. And that's what you do till you're 55 or 65. And then what? So not do the first part of your life, which is your career, or the second part of your life, which maybe you aged out of your career and you now need a new one. And the third part, which is growing older, none of them are really laid out with guidelines that are useful. I want to thank you so much. You actually are as great at being interviewed as you are at interviewing. Bravo to you, William
Thank you.
Rossy. And audience will give you how to touch base with William and Seeds of Success at Sprought. I love that. The journal is beautiful. If it was a handbag, if it was a clutch bag, I'd have it in every color. That's
Oh my
just me.
God.
I'm fashion.
I'm gonna send you the tote bag. We have a tote
Oh,
bag also. So you put
fantastic.
them in the bag, yeah.
Yay, thank
Not a
you.
clutch, but it's not a clutch, but we'll
Okay,
get
I'll
there.
go for
We'll make
it.
one for you.
I'll go for it. Thank you so much, William. I hope that our paths keep crossing every so often and we see how each of us are progressing. Much
Likewise.
thanks.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young